building. It was kind of low and muted. In a kind of, my classroom, we had about 38 kids in the class, so there was a lot of noise, just talking and some music. And so the sound was muted, but it caused us to pause.
I forgot to ask you, what are you teaching?
English and creative writing.
Okay. Anything particular that you were teaching on this particular fourth period class?
We were writing love letters, or love to hate letters.
Okay. And your classroom, it's the second one, you know, based on the diagram, from the east side on the north side of the hall. Am
Correct.
I describing that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so go ahead. You were
so we were busy. We heard a popping sound, caused us to pause, and didn't sound menacing really in any way, but just kind of caused us to sort of stop. But in my mind, I thought it could be firecrackers because you know, it was Valentine's Day. People had balloons, and they could be popping. Or the first thought really that came to my mind was that something fell over, a computer cart with computers, and it just sounded like metal on metal. But again, very muted.
Mm-hmm. Do each classroom have computer carts? All the kids have computers now, right? So
right. Then a lot of most classrooms had their own computer cart.
Okay. Okay. So go ahead. What happens then?
After that, we resumed. Some kids were kind of quieted down a little bit. I think I heard popping sounds again. I don't quite remember because simultaneously the fire alarm went off. And the fire alarm in the 1200 building is piercing. And so that sort of superseded anything else that maybe we had heard before. So I grabbed my emergency folder and my phone, and I yelled over the noise and motioned for everybody to leave the classroom and meet up where we normally meet up.
And where do you normally meet for?
We'll usually meet in the by the fence on Holmberg Road, like inside the fence.
Okay.
So we're all assigned to different spaces.
So when you go, when you leave for a fire drill, you go out the east stairwell?
Right. So every classroom goes a different route. In our classroom, we would go to the east.
East because you're 2 classrooms from the stairwell, right?
Correct.
Okay. Was this your the first time you heard the fire alarm that day?
No, we actually had a fire drill, I guess a planned drill, a second period that day.
Okay, so this is the second time you're hearing a fire
right,
alarm.
And so also at that moment I thought maybe it was firecrackers, and that set off the fire alarm. To me it wasn't a drill because it was at the end of the school day, and it didn't make any sense for them to have a drill at the end of the school day.
Okay.
So I figured it was either an alarm pull that maybe a student pulled, or prank, or whatever it was. Right. But in any case, we evacuated because there was no reason not to evacuate. So I waited for every child to get out. Well, the hall sort of fills up very quickly, so our hall was filling up with students pretty quickly. And so I would say there was maybe a classroom full of kids in front of my class. So everybody got out. I was the last one out, and I made sure the door was locked behind me. They didn't lock automatically. But I just double-checked that the door was locked. And I started walking behind my students. And so kind of like neck and neck with me was Scott Beagle. He was on one side, and then another teacher was on the other side. And I can't remember his name now. I'm sorry. So we start walking towards the stairwell, which is about 20 feet from my classroom. Maybe I walked about 2 feet, and I heard the screams before I heard anything else. So all of a sudden, I hear kids screaming, and then there was a log jam right before the stairwell. No one was moving. The crowd started moving backwards towards me. And so as that was happening, I heard shots, gunshots. It wasn't really connecting that it was gunshots. It was just very, very loud. So I turned very quickly, walked straight to my classroom, unlocked the door, and then kind of simultaneously I locked it back in the position to make sure it was locked when I was able to close it. So I opened my door, and kids started running. They were screaming, they were running. It was extremely loud, chaotic. Heard shots, the fire alarm was still going off, and everyone was just kind of running in a haphazard way. Okay,
and then what?
I got my door open. Students started just running into whatever classroom they could run into.
So students that weren't assigned to your class were also running into
Yes, yes. Okay. So my door opened, so I was facing the east. And then I saw Scott right in front of me. His door opens the opposite way.
Is there anything between, you're on the north side, is there anything between your classrooms, like on the south side, there's a partition between?
No partition.
There's no partition like it exists?
Right.
No. Oh, okay.
We're in an alcove together.
Right, so it's just flush doors, right?
Right, right.
Okay.
So after what seemed like a long time, but it really wasn't, I saw the shooter emerge from the stairwell. So I just sort of saw him walk, and my memory is that he was standing in front of the stairwell, sort of splaying the rifle back and forth. And it was just shot after shot after shot. It just never stopped. Kids were running. Kids kept coming into my classroom. My door was open. And there was a point where I don't remember why or when or how I decided to close my door. But I grabbed the handles of my door to pull it closed. And when I did that, I felt like a ping and like a heat brush against my arm. And as I'm doing that, I know I could see Scott from my peripheral, and so I yelled at him to close his door. And so as I'm closing my door, I'm just kind of hanging on to that handle really, really tight, hung on to it as it closed, waited there a couple of beats, and then I ran over to the corner where my students were hiding.
Okay. Did any students still outside your door, or did you get them all in?
I got them all in.
Okay. And what did you see about Scott? Did you, after you yelled, close your door, Scott, anything?
No idea.
How close did you get to the shooter?
He was about 20 feet from me, but moving in. He was walking towards me.
What did the rifle, if you had a chance to look, what did the rifle look like?
It was long and black.
Okay. All right. So you go into your classroom and you run to where the kids are hiding, right?
Right.
So then what happens?
Soon as I got there, within seconds, I heard shots next door, very loud, in succession, and then immediately shots were fired through the glass panel of my door.
Okay.
Maybe 3 or 4.
Anybody hit in your classroom?
No.
Okay. Then what happened?
We were all adjacent to the door, so it was adjacent to the hallway, I should say, so out of the line of sight of the door. But the glass was shot out, and so I was kind of peering over, kind of waiting for his hand to come in and open the handle, because it could have been done very easily. So we were sort of backed up against the wall, and when I saw the glass shatter, I was just looking at the ground, and I saw bullet casings there. Then I looked around the room to see if anyone was hit in my room, and everyone was over by me.
Okay.
Then I heard shots go down the hallway, more than I can even count or tell you. But they started getting more faint and more faint as he was shooting down the hallway.
Okay. And then what?
It got quiet, and I don't know how much time passed, but I heard crying and screaming from the middle of the hallway, a young man's voice screaming, "Help me, help me." And, we couldn't open the door.
Right. Did you ever learn who that voice belonged to?
Anthony Borges.
Okay. Before you evacuated your class, how many students, Ms. Lapel, did you have in your class?
About 38.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many you had in your class?
Probably about 20.
Afterwards?
Right.
Okay. All right. Right now, I'm going to show you a video, and you tell me who these participants are, or these people are in this video, okay? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
we publish the video?
Just stop it for a second. In that yellow circle, who is that?
That's me.
Okay. Thank you. Stop it for a second. See the yellow circle now?
Yes,
Who is that?
that's Scott Beagle.
Okay. Okay. Do you know who Meadow Pollock was? Or is?
Yes,
Who is she?
she was my student.
Okay. Was she in your classroom during the fourth period of February 14, 2018?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to play the video for Meadow Pollock.
Okay.
Please.
technical difficulties, I'm going to ask you to just step out in this hallway. Charlene, just keep them right here while we deal with sidebar in the old-fashioned basis. Okay, the jurors have exited. Mr. Secor, I'm going to ask that you make all of your objections now so that we don't have to keep stopping before each, because they're renewed objections, but a lot of the substance you're having to repeat, or you are repeating for each one. So if you can just make a general objection to each video as far as the 9403 and the cumulative, and then if you want to say the specific amount of times that you believe things are shown, why don't you go ahead and do that now for each video so that we don't have to keep breaking up every witness testimony.
Okay. Hang on just 1 second, please.
Judge, we just want to agree that the state will allow these objections to constitute contemporaneous objections when they publish the individual
Well,
videos.
then all you have to say is over our continued objection, as stated on the record, and then we don't have to use these dreadful headphones and have all these issues, because they seem to be working less and less as the days go on.
We don't have to go sidebar for every time they want to object. They just put it on the record because that's what they're doing.
Right, that's what I mean, but
Right.
that's why I'm asking for you to place your objection on the record now while the jury's out, and then you can just renew your objection at the time the evidence is offered or published.
I understand, Judge, we just don't want to waive any issues that may arise down the road that we didn't make contemporaneous
I don't think
objection.
you'd be waiving it. In fact, I don't know of any law that says you have to repeat every single grounds that you've already stated in order to preserve your objection. I think you can just say, over our renewed objection, and that's it. I don't think there's any law that says you have to repeat all of the same things every time. All of the same arguments every single time. If you are, I'm happy to review the law, but I think that what you're doing is plenty to preserve your objection. Steve, do you agree?
No, for this, I agree with what you said, but what Mr. Secor is doing, and I'm not, laying any blame on anybody or saying they shouldn't do it, but he's also doing anticipatory objections that may come true or may not come true.
I agree.
Because, we're not necessarily going to show Ms. Lapel everything that he says we're going to, or any other witness. So, we don't have any objection to what you said, but the objection should be for what's going on, not what may happen in the future. That's my only concern.
And I just want to, I understand Mr. Seth's concern, and I just want the court to understand that I'm not at all trying to expand my objection improperly. I've received from the state what they say are the videos that they intend to introduce, and I have no way to base my objection on anything other than that. So I understand the concern, but I'm just operating under what I have, which is the only thing that I can operate on.
But if your objection is that by publishing a certain clip of a video to a jury, they will have seen person A being shot and person B being shot multiple times when there's not been any video of person A and person B being shot, then you're essentially making an objection to evidence that's is not even evidence. So, and the state is saying they may not even show that evidence, and I'm using the example of person A and person B because
I understand. And the reason that I'm renewing the objection is because the cumulative character of the evidence only arises when it's offered. And so that's why I feel the need to put on the record the amount of times that these scenes are shown, because before a video is put before the jury, then the cumulative argument is not the same. It changes every time. And so I'm not trying to interfere with the state's presentation of their case. I'm simply trying to preserve the record accurately as best as I possibly can. So I'm not trying to, again, somehow impede the state's presentation of their case.
And Your Honor, the defense, we have no problem if the defense wants to make a continuing objection without raising the number of times that they believe, not that the state believes, that they believe a victim has been shot. If they want to add the numbers up, if the defendant is sentenced to death and there's a brief in the Florida Supreme Court, the defense will have plenty of time to tally up those numbers from the record on appeal and put it in their initial brief. There's no reason to do it here. They can have an objection that they've already made and just raise it again.
I do want to add also that they bring up the video of Ashley Baez as an objection to Meadow Pollock video. Ashley Baez is on the first floor. It has nothing to do with accumulating Meadow Pollock's video. These are separate victims, separate floors. And the defense brought up Coyer, Martin Duque. Those are first floor victims. We're on the third floor now. There's no cumulative other than the timeline that was presented.
I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I've already denied the defense motion to eliminate, so I did say that you could go sidebar to preserve your objection, but what you're doing is you're repeating and continuing the objection, and it's taking, I don't think it's necessary. I've already denied the motion. The video's in evidence. So what's in evidence can be published to the jury. If you want to have a continuous objection, that's fine. You can state that on the record, but to go sidebar and have you make the argument over and over and over again, I just don't think it's necessary.
And believe me, I certainly don't enjoy making the argument over and over again. I just want to make clear that the reason that I'm doing it is because the cumulative argument changes when a video is shown to the jury. That's the reason that
I understand what you're saying, but you're not just limiting it to that. You are making the entire argument over again, each and every time. And we have 17 videos. I don't need to hear all of the other arguments. You said you were simply going to go sidebar and tell me what you thought exactly was different and that what would be shown to the jury on multiple occasions, but we're going way beyond that.
Yeah, and my understanding was that the court wanted me to make all of my objections, so I was going to go through each of the videos, but I have it in a document, and I can submit it in writing if the court would prefer, and that way...
Didn't you already do that in your motion limiting?
No, the motion limit did not actually have the descriptions in the way that I have them in this document. It had some brief descriptions that were non-specific because I didn't want to file them publicly. But for purposes of judicial economy, I can put these descriptions and the counts as the defense perceives them in a document, and I can simply reference that when the state wants to show a video, and Your Honor can rule based on that. And I think that would speed up the process. I think it preserves the issue. I just believe that I need to contemporaneously raise that briefly and have Your Honor rule on it before the video is shown.
And Your Honor, the state objects to the defense filing a pleading in writing as to their supposedly contemporaneous objections. It's not contemporaneous if they're going to file an after-the-fact pleading that maybe you give them a week or 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 to put something together and do it after the fact. This is a proceeding that's going on now. They've made their objections. You've ruled on it, Your Honor. All they have to do is say, continuing objection. That's all that has to happen. This doesn't have to be dragged out. They don't have to do anything in writing to preserve their appellate arguments. It's preserved. I understand they don't want to object in public to every photograph that's coming in, but that's the procedure, Your Honor. If they want to preserve their arguments for appeal, just have them object. They don't have to count up how many times they believe that this court is making an error and allowing this in. There are 34 victims in this case with numerous injuries. Yes, there's going to be a lot of photographs, and there are videos. And we see the pandemonium on the 3rd floor. There's going to be videos of that. All they have to say is continuing objection.
I agree. For purposes of preserving your appellate rights, a continuing objection is sufficient. Okay, is there anything else?
No, I wasn't asking for any time to put together anything for the court. I don't know why that came up. That's not what I was asking.
Okay, but the point is, I've already denied your motion in limine. I have reviewed all of the videos previous to today and yesterday, and I have found them to be relevant and other things, among other things. So you can preserve your objection by simply saying over the defense renewed objection. But we don't need to go sidebar every time and rehash all of the specifics in order for you to preserve your objection for here, okay? Thank you.
Your Honor, we'll abide by the court's ruling, but it's the defense's opinion that we should be able to preserve the appellate record the way that we believe that we should be able to do it. We believe that the court is limiting our access to the record, but we will certainly abide by the court's ruling. We'd also like to remind the court that on 2 separate occasions we asked for a hearing outside of the presence of the jury so that we could hash through all of these issues and not interrupt testimony before every witness to have to go through all of this. So we will certainly do what you want us to do, but it's the defense's position that you are limiting our access to the record for the purposes of appeal.
Okay. Respectfully, I disagree. Let's bring the jury in, please. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. The jurors are present. Everyone may be seated. Mr. Sachs, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hold it for a second. Who is that in the yellow circle?
We can't,
It's nothing.
Pardon?
we can't see anything on our screens. Now we can. Can you now? Can you see that?
Yes.
Can everybody see?
That's
No.
black.
Now it's gone again.
You okay now? Everybody's good? You see it, Ms. Lapel?
Yes.
Okay. And who's in the yellow circle?
That's Meadow Pollock.
Okay. And can you see who that yellow circle was?
Yes, that was Meadow Pollock.
Okay. Joaquin Oliver, do you know who he is?
Yes.
Was he in your class also?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like permission to publish this.
You may.
Same objection pursuant to DMIL 12 in the court's ruling regarding preservation.
Thank you.
Who's in the yellow circle?
That's Joaquin Oliver.
Okay, Ms. LaPelle, I want to show you State Exhibit 4. Z for identification. Can you tell me who that is?
That's Meadow Pollock.
And State's Exhibit 4J. Can you tell me who that is?
That's Scott Beagle.
And State's Exhibit 4K.
That's Joaquin Oliver.
And State's Exhibit X.
That's Chris Hickson.
And State's Exhibit Y.
That's Aaron Feiss.
Aaron, I'd like to offer to evidence State's Exhibits Z, 4J, 4K, X, And why?
Is there any objection?
No, ma'am.
Okay, states X for identification will be received as states 68. States Y for identification will be received as states 69. States Z as in zebra for identification will be received as states 70. States 4J as in John will be received as states 71. And states 4K will be received as states 72.
Your Honor, may I publish these photos, please?
You may.
And this is State's Exhibit, sorry, Mr. Phil, State's Exhibit 70. That is,
The picture is really, I mean, I know who it is, but it's hard to see the picture. Yeah. That's Meadow Pollock.
okay. And State's Exhibit 71.
Scott Beagle.
State's Exhibit 72.
Joaquin Oliver.
State's Exhibit 68.
Chris Hickson.
And State's Exhibit 69.
Aaron Feiss.
Okay, I'd like to play for you Christopher Hickson with the court's permission.
The surveillance
Video, yeah.
video.
New objection pursuant to DMIL 12 and the court's ruling regarding preservation.
Okay. Over the defense objection, you may publish.
All right, I'm just, Your Honor, with the court's permission, play the beginning and then have the witness excused. There's no, after cross-examination.
Sure.
We don't have any questions, so whatever you want to
Okay,
do.
so can we start it and then Ms. Lepel can leave and,
Sure.
okay. Do you know who that is?
Yes,
Who is that?
that's Chris Hickson.
Okay, can we pause it there, please? Ms. Lepel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can step down. Next witness.
Okay, go ahead.
Veronica Steele.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can go ahead and have a seat. Please speak into the microphone, state your full name, and spell your last name for the record.
Veronica Steele, Steel.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Steele. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Do you go to school?
Yes.
Where do you go to school?
Florida Gulf Coast University.
And what year are you in?
My sophomore year.
Sophomore year?
Yes.
Where did you go to high school?
Douglas.
Marjory Stoneman Douglas High
Yes.
School? When did you graduate?
2021.
I'd like to call your attention to February the 14th, 2018. Remember that day?
Yes.
During fourth period, do you remember where you were?
Yes.
Where were you?
The third floor of the freshman building.
And what classroom were you in?
1257.
And whose classroom was that?
Mr. Beagle's class.
Scott Beagle?
Yes.
And what was Mr. Beagle teaching?
He was teaching government.
Government?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember approximately how many students were in the class?
I believe around 18 to 20.
Okay. And did anything happen during that fourth period?
Yes.
What happened?
The fire alarm went off while we were doing some review for one of our exams.
Could you just lean in a little bit more
Yes.
to the microphone, please?
We were doing a review for some of our exams that we were going to do. And the fire alarm had gone off. And Mr. Beagle told us to start packing up all of our things and to start heading down the stairwell. We flooded into the stairwell.
And you were going to go down the closest stairwell?
Yes, and
The
it
east
was
stairwell.
directly to our left.
Okay, the east stairwell, right?
Yes.
Okay.
When we left the classroom, the hallway was flooded with a lot of other kids from the other classrooms. So it was very packed. And before we were heading down the stairwell, it was like a rush of students that pushed back. And everyone got pushed back onto the walls and just a whole mess.
At that time, where were you?
I was directly outside of the classroom, in between the two rooms that were right next to each other. It was Beagle's class and Miss Lapel's class.
Okay.
So I was pushed in between right where that wall was. And then when we all got pushed back, it was just a whole sort of emotions. We didn't know what was happening or why, we all just stopped and everything. And all of a sudden, a ton of kids started pushing backwards and running to the other side of the hallway. And you can imagine just our emotions and everything. It was just all over the place. We didn't know what was happening or anything. And there was a teacher in the hallway that was yelling at everyone to stop running and to just calm down. But when more kids started running, we heard 7 shots go off in the hallway. And it echoed from the stairwell into the hallway. And from there, I almost got pushed into Lapel's class, but I pushed my way out and went back into Beagle's class.
and ran with my classmates, and we ran in front of the desk and threw ourselves on the floor and had our backpacks shielding us. We didn't know if it was a drill or not, but we just wanted to like be safe because we were panicking and we didn't know what exactly was happening. So 7 shots going off that we heard, and then it just all went quiet, and everyone from the hallway just disappeared into either classrooms or they left. And the way I was laying on the floor, I was laying on top of my 3 other classmates that were there with me. And we were shielding ourselves with our backpacks, and we had a clear view of the door, and we noticed that the door wasn't closed. It was wide open.
The door, the classroom to your door.
Yes. And our teacher, Beagle, his body was partially inside of the classroom, and then his torso down was outside of the classroom. And his body was blocking the door and holding it open. So it was very, scary for us because we didn't know what to do. And with all of us like crying and, whispering to each other, it was pretty loud, I can say. Especially with our door open, it kind of echoed into the hallway.
Right.
So it was just a whole mess.
Okay, so what happened then?
Then we kind of just were laying there. We were texting our friends and family saying, we don't know what's happening. We think there's a shooter in here. We heard shots going off and everything. What's it called? My classmate, one of my classmates, her phone actually rang, and, she turned it off, and randomly her phone dialed 911. We don't know how. We just started hearing on her phone, 911, what's your emergency? And we didn't know how, maybe I don't know what happened. But then she ended up hanging it up because it was really loud. And we were just all laying there. We didn't know what to do. And we were kind of just staying in the same position until the police and the SWAT team came up to our room.
Okay. After Mr. Beagle fell into the doorway, did you hear any more shots after that?
No.
Okay, you were just hiding in the classroom?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you take any cell phone videos?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let me show you State's Exhibit Mark 4L for identification. Let me take this out. Show you this drive. You see your initials on it?
Yes.
So you recognize this?
Yes.
And you've watched this?
Yes.
And this is truly and accurately depict everything you took on your cell phone
Yes.
on February the 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce you to evidence of
Is there any
4L.
objection?
Just again, pursuant to DMIL 12 and the court's ruling regarding preservation.
Okay, thank you. Over the defense objection states Exhibit 4L, as in Lisa, for identification will be received as states 73.
I'm going to play 73 for you, okay?
Okay.
Is that the door to the classroom there? Ms.
Yes.
Steele? And is that Mr. Beagle lying there?
Yes.
Hey, look straight, look straight.
Look straight, look straight.
Y'all line. Right behind this classroom. Come on, guys. You guys are okay.
So those voices that you heard, they were the police coming?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gill. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you, Ms. Excused.
Thank you.
Anthony Borges.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and be seated. Please speak into the microphone and state your full name. Spell your last name for the record.
Anthony Borges, Borges.
Okay. Mr. Borges, are you working?
No.
Were you going to school?
Yes.
Where do you go to school?
Atlantic Technical College on Coconut Creek, doing
Okay.
automobile service.
Okay. Where did you go to high school? Where did you go to high school?
Oh, where? No, I'm going to college.
No. But before you went to college, you went to high school, right?
No, I went to, I should change the program. I went to Reuters school.
Okay. Did you ever go to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School?
No. I mean, I did, yes, I did. My freshman year.
I thought you did.
Yeah, for sure.
Scared me there for a minute, Anthony. When did you go to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School?
I actually don't remember,
You don't remember?
but that was way back.
Okay. All right. Do you remember February the 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what year you were in on February the 14th, 2018?
Freshman year.
You were a freshman?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask you about February the 14th, 2018. Fourth period. Remember that?
Yes.
Tell us what happened, okay?
So I was in the third floor on class personalization, 1250, I think. And I was just sitting down, the teacher just planning about the finals exams and stuff like that. So I was just chilling, sitting, listening to music, and then I hear something weird, like a scream and like some echo. So I turned off the music, and then the alarm went on and then went off. and they went on again like 2 times. So everybody was confused. Everybody just get out of the class. There was like a lot of people in the hallway. Then I decided to go out down to the stairwell. That's when I saw the gun and just closed the door and started running.
Okay, then what did you do?
Then he shot me on my left leg, and then I saw this door like half open. Then I closed it, and then I just lay down there, waiting for everything to stop.
Okay, and so what happened to you?
So then I got shot, everything got silent. I just look myself, check up on me. I look everything around me. There was a person in front of me. There was another person on the other side. I talked to that person to reach out if he was okay or anything, and she didn't respond. That's when I stopped talking to her, I just reached out my phone and I called my mom first. She didn't answer. I called my best friend. She didn't answer, and then I called my dad. So I told her everything, like goodbye and everything. I threw my phone because I didn't want the shooter just looking at me with the phone and shoot me again. So I just threw the phone.
Okay, when you were on the phone, where were you?
I was outside the classroom.
Yeah, were you standing?
No,
Were
I
you-
was shot. I was laying down in the hallway.
So you were laying in the hallway?
Yes.
Did you call for help or anything?
I did call. Yeah.
Did you call in Spanish and English or just
Both. Yes.
What were you yelling?
Help.
Help, help?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me show you. State's Exhibit 4N for identification. Mr. Borges, and ask you, can you identify that?
Yeah, that's me.
And that's you?
Yes.
And that's accurate the way you were on February 14th,
yes.
2018?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce State's Exhibit 4N.
Is there an objection? Okay, states 4N for identification will be received as states 74.
And Mr. Borges, tell us what happened. You were laying in the hallway and you were shot. How many times? Do you know how many times you were shot?
At that time, I didn't know. I just felt like one shot.
Right.
But I got 5 times. So
Pardon?
5 times.
5 times?
Yes.
Where were you shot?
And my leg, my other leg, and the back, and over
right.
here in the RPing.
All right. Can you show it to us?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Back to
Yep.
leg.
Okay.
I don't know if the jurors on the other side can see.
Why don't you come out in the front here, Mr. Borges? Right over here. Okay, thank you. And how many surgeries have you had?
14.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Yeah.
Ernest Lesmirski.
Good afternoon, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You can be seated. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Okay. My full name is Ernest Adam Rospierski. My last name is spelled Rospierski.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
Depending on who you ask, but very little. No. I'm a teacher at Stoneman Douglas High School.
Okay. And how long have you been a teacher?
I am going to be entering in my 11th year.
Okay. And what do you teach?
Students, weirdly enough. But what subjects do I teach?
Yes.
History. I teach AP European History, International Relations, and Geography.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to February the 14th, 2018. Were you teaching on that day, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And where was your classroom?
In the 1200 building.
And what was the number of your classroom?
My classroom was 1249.
Okay. Let me show you State's exhibit. Is remarked in evidence, Mr. Rospierski, as 67. This is a diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see your classroom there?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to put it on this video here. And could you mark for us where your classroom was?
I'm guessing using my finger?
No, you're going to see. It comes up. It's and you can pick a color and you can circle the number you were in.
Thank you. Ooh, which color? My wife's favorite color is blue, but my son's is red. That's my room.
Okay. And is that on the north side or the south side of the hallway?
It's on the south side.
Okay. And it's two classrooms from the west stairwell. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, fourth period, what were you teaching?
Fourth period was actually my personalization course.
Okay.
So I wasn't teaching anything. I was actually grading papers.
Okay.
It was the end of the day.
Could you tell us approximately how many students you had in your class, sir?
I want to say probably upper 20s, so I think 28 was on my roster.
Okay.
It's 4 years ago, so a couple thousand kids since then, so I want to say 28.
I understand. So, what happened during that fourth period, sir?
Well, I'm guessing you're asking towards the tail end of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Just for clarification, because up until then it was relatively boring, which was awesome. It was a normal Valentine's Day, so lots of kids being excited, lots of candy being bandied about, balloons and what have you. First thing, I'm sitting at my table at my desk, grading papers. I had a stack of tests that I had to get through because I wanted to, because they'd just taken them, so I was trying to get on top of that. Right. And then sitting in class, and I heard a fire alarm go off.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Follow normal fire procedure. Get all the kids out, walk out of my room, and that's when I saw kids starting to walk towards the west stairwell, because that's our normal path, and then they all started coming back.
Right.
And I was unsure as to why. I started hearing what I thought were gunshots, at least whatever, so I wanted to go investigate. So that's when I walked to the west stairwell.
Were you familiar with guns?
I grew up in the state of Michigan, hunting, fishing, and doing all types of things. Right. So yes, I'm very familiar with them.
Okay, so that you recognize gunshots?
Yes.
Okay, so how did you respond? What did you do?
I went to investigate. I wasn't sure what was going on, right. So I couldn't see anything, but I definitely heard gunshots. So then I returned back in the hallway. I saw a very packed hallway, to say the least, as I'm sure that, I'm guessing some people have seen on video. And I tried to calm kids down and get them into the classrooms that they were supposed to go to. I walked towards them relatively calmly, saying, get back to your rooms, go to where you belong, please. And by the time I got to roughly my room, which directly across from there is the bathroom, actually directly across is the water fountains, but both bathrooms are right there. That's when the shooter came onto the floor. And that's when everyone thankfully ducked into rooms. And I pushed a bunch of kids who were in front of me into the little alcove outside of my door.
Okay. And then what happened, sir?
During that, at some point, I pushed them all into the door. I think there was 12-ish kids. I then stuck my head out real quickly to see what was going on. That's when I got grazed by the first bullet, because I got a graze on my face in this general area. and then I got another one on my hip that I didn't find until the next day, actually. And I tucked my head back. This all happened very quickly.
Right.
And then I looked out again. I saw the shooter had the gun up and away because he's about 25-ish feet from my guesstimation. I then tried my neighbor's door because I couldn't get into my room because my keys were in my room because my bag was already packed to go home, and I forgot to grab them as I left.
Okay.
My neighbor's door was locked, so then I came back after trying her door once. I yelled at the kids to run, and then I took off down the hallway and held open the first door for the kids as they came through. After all my kids came through, at least I thought all my kids came through, I put my foot by the door to let them have time to get down. And after a relatively short amount of time, Kyle came by and it was scrambling down, and I didn't notice at the time, but he was injured.
You mean Kyle Lehman?
Kyle Lehman, yes.
Yeah.
And then I held the door after that. I kind of froze for a minute. And then somebody tried to push through. I thought it was a kid. Thankfully, later I found out it wasn't. And then I waited, and I kind of got a hold of myself, and then I thought, okay, where can I go that I can lock a door? So I went down the second floor. There's a teacher lounge on the second floor. I know the door to the teacher lounge is usually kept unlocked, but I knew the bathroom could be locked. So that's where I went.
Okay. And you stayed on the landing and held the door for a while, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were doing that, did you notice anyone that was lying on the
There's a girl with dark hair. I thought it was Jamie, but I wasn't sure. I reached down and shook her, trying to get some sort of reaction. I got nothing. And that's when I decided to run. I didn't try and grab because, quite frankly, I didn't think I could do anything.
Okay. And that was Jamie Guttenberg?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Carol Logren, do you know who she is?
Yes, of course I do.
Was she in your class?
She was.
Okay. And how about Peter Wine?
Also in my class.
Also in your class. Okay. I'm going to publish this video, and you can identify yourself for us, would you?
Sure.
Your Honor, may we?
Sure.
No objection pursuant to DMIL 12 and the court's ruling regarding preservation of objection.
Okay, thank you.
Do you see yourself there, sir?
I do.
I assume that's you in the maroon shirt?
That's a safe assumption. Oh, there I am. Now I'm walking out the door slowly. Ah, yes, that's me.
Okay.
Jeans, Stoneman Douglas shirt. I think you guys still have.
All right. And what were you doing there, sir?
That's when I said I went to the stairwell to investigate the noise. That's what I was doing.
Is this you coming back?
Yep. And here comes all the kitties.
Is that when you're going to next door to try the door, sir?
That is correct.
This is the other angle. Was that Kyle Lehman?
I believe so, yeah.
And is that when you said you were checking Jamie?
Yes.
And you were standing there when he did that, right?
Yes.
Bless you. And that's when you're going to the second floor to the restroom?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how long did you stay there?
I honestly couldn't tell you the length of time I was there. It did not seem very long, but police officers came through and cleared the outside room.
Okay.
I heard them, and then that's when I
Left.
Well, after they left the room, I exited a little bit after that, and thankfully the first person I saw was a BSO officer who I knew from working games at school, and he looked at me and said, "What are you doing in there?" I said, "Hiding."
Okay. So, and then you...
Then I made my way downstairs and had a bunch of people in very nice uniforms pointing large guns at me.
I want to show you State Exhibit 4Y for identification. Do you recognize that person?
Yes,
Who is that?
it's Claire. Kara.
Carol Ogren?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 4Y.
Okay.
State's Exhibit 4Y for identification will be received as State's 75.
And I'm going to show you a video, and could you tell us if you see Carl Ogren, please?
Subject to objection pursuant to D and 912 of the court's ruling regarding preservation.
Okay, so noted. Thank you.
Do you see Carol Ogren?
Yes, the circle indicated her.
Okay. And that surrounding the yellow circle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Ostrowski, thank you. I want to show you State's Exhibit 5A, sir, and ask you, can you identify who this is?
Yes,
Who is it?
it's Peter Wine.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 5A.
Is there any objection? No. State's Exhibit 5A for identification will be received as State's 76.
And I'd like you to watch this video and please identify Mr. Wang if you can, Mr. Ostrowski. Is that okay?
Sounds fun.
I have my objection pursuant to DMIL 12 and the court's ruling on body preservation. Thank you.
Okay, your objection is noted for the record. Thank you.
Circled in yellow, was that Mr. Wang?
I believe so.
Can you see him now?
Yes,
Is that Peter Wang?
I believe so.
Anyone want to show you the state's exhibit? Mark 4Z. Mr. Restriction. You recognize who this is?
Yes,
Who is that?
it's Jamie Guttenberg.
Okay, was she in your class?
She was.
All right, I'd like to, Jamie Guttenberg, please, Mr. Course Commissioner.
Is there any objection?
Yes, and pursuant to DMI 12, as well as the court's preservation ruling. Oh, I'm sorry, that was just a photo? I'm sorry, I thought it was a video. No objection to the photo.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to publish the video too, so.
Okay, well, let's deal with one thing at a time. 4Z as in zebra for identification is a photo, and it will be received without objection as states 77.
I'm going to play the video. You want to?
So you're not publishing the photo, but you want to play what
No.
it's in evidence?
I was going to all right, I'm going to publish them first. Okay, you're right.
Okay.
I forgot.
I was just asking, you can do whatever you want.
No, it's okay. And you previously identified State's Exhibit 75 as Carol Logren?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Correct, Mr.?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 76 is Peter Wang.
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 77, Jamie Guttenberg, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. We'd like to publish this video.
Okay.
Object to DMIL 12, as well as the court's preservation ruling. Thank you.
Okay, your objection is noted with regard to the surveillance video. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ostrowski. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. Ostrowski.
Are there any questions from the defense?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. You're excused. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, our break is going to be a little bit later than we normally break, but we're going to break for about 10-15 minutes so everyone can stretch and use the facilities if you need to. Remember, please do not discuss the case while we're on a recess, okay? Thank you. All right, the jurors have been excused. State, how many more witnesses do you have today, just so that I have an idea?
Looks like 4.
Okay. So we'll be in recess until, it's 4:06, we're in recess till 4:20. You said that. Why don't we let everybody stretch and go to the bathroom and then we'll do that, okay?
that I believe the state may call this afternoon is a woman named Nikolas Cruz.
I'm sorry, did you repeat that, please?
Yeah, and I'll spell it, I'm sorry. Nikolas Cruz, I'm not sure how to say it. It's Nicolette, last name Michiotta, I believe.
Okay.
She was not in the 1200 building, but she saw Mr. Cruz as the students were all leaving the campus and heading towards West Glades Middle School and then on to the shopping center where the Walmart is. She said that he was directly behind her. She did have a brief conversation with him. This is from her deposition testimony, possibly her statement. She asked him, she said hi to him and how was he doing, asked him where he was going to college, and then he responded to that. She said that he was behind her as he was walking away with another student. And then at one point in her deposition, she says, as he's right behind me, I'm calling my mom, hysterically crying because we can't find Meadow Pollock. And I'm screaming her name, and he's right behind me. And at that point, I didn't know who he was or what the conversation that was like, anything beyond that, but no emotion to that. No emotion to hearing me scream about her, cry about her, like trying to figure out where she is. So, Judge, and I do want, prior to the lunch break, I did speak with the state, and I asked them if they intended to elicit any testimony about that, because it's our belief that's not relevant to put the crime in context or to any aggravating factor. And in fact, it would be an attempt to introduce a non-statutory aggravating factor of lack of remorse. It doesn't go to any of the 7 listed aggravators. And the state's response was, didn't remember that, but we can't control what she says. So I'm asking the court to grant this motion in limine. I don't have a problem. We don't have an. Okay.
What specifically are you asking me to explain?
Right. We don't have an issue with, and I understand the evidence about her walking and seeing him in the crowd leaving, and the shirt that he's wearing. That could potentially, arguably go towards CCP in terms of a plan that he may have had, if that's the state's theory, that he planned to wear that shirt and blend in with the crowd and leave. However, the part about how she was screaming and hysterical because she couldn't find Ms. Pollock, and he was showing no emotion, that is an attempt to introduce a lack of remorse, which is not a statutory aggravator. It's impermissible based on the Pope case, which we have cited previously, I believe, in jury selection, actually. Pope versus State, 441, Southern 2nd, 1073. That's a Florida Supreme Court 1983 case. And I would cite a couple cases that, for both CCP, cold calculated and premeditated, as well as especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, actions taken after the murders are not relevant to prove those aggravating factors. So any emotion or lack of emotion or actions that he took after would not be relevant to prove the aggravating factors. Perhaps if that something came up in the defense case, it might be relevant to rebuttal, but at this point, it's not relevant to prove any aggravating factor. And so we're asking that she not be permitted to testify to anything about that, and that the state be directed to advise her that she's limited to testifying to seeing him. She can describe what he was wearing and say that she was walking directly in front of him and he's leaving with the rest of the students. But that's, beyond that, I think that would be irrelevant.
Well, she had a conversation.
Who's my point person from the state?
I'm sorry, I lost my mind.
I mean, you are doing all the witnesses.
I know, but...
Mr. Marcus.
Go ahead. Do something.
Judge, that's a very unusual argument for lack of remorse when he is maybe a minute or 2 minutes from just committing the crime. It's not a lack of remorse. It's context is of his mental state. So he's at this point, he hasn't even gotten to a place of safety yet. He's still in the midst of the crime that he had just committed, and he's trying to escape to a place of safety. The crime is not even over yet. So saying that there's lack of remorse is, that would be evidence of lack of remorse, really stretches it. It certainly is not. There is a conversation between them that goes to his mental state. That's clearly relevant evidence. He's confronted with some knowledge and he doesn't react to it. It would be like if he later gives a statement and he's confronted with guilty knowledge and doesn't react to it like that. That would be admissible evidence. There is absolutely no reason how this would be a non-statutory aggravator. It has nothing to do with that. It does have to do with this. He's still within the planning of what he was doing. It still goes to cold, calculated, and premeditated because he hasn't finished the crime yet in terms of he hasn't gotten to a place of safety. So this is part of CCP and getting away with his crime and being confronted while he's escaping with information about it and his lack of answering or emotion about the witness's concern about Meadow Pollock being missing is relevant information.
Judge, if I may just briefly, respectfully disagree with that. And I'm going to cite to Hall versus State, 107 Southern 3rd, 262. In that case, the court, and I'm quoting from that case, the trial court's reliance on Hall's actions after the murder of moving the victim's body, changing his bloody clothes, cleaning up the blood, and running from other officers as evidence that he pre-planned the murder is also speculative. I think there was a lack of evidence regarding planning prior to the murders, and the state was attempting to use some of his actions after as showing that it was cold, calculated, and premeditated, and the court held that the finding of that aggravating factor was error. There was not evidence to support that. So his comments after, I mean, I disagree with Mr. Marcus that the crime is not over as he's leaving, but I mean, what we're talking about are the actual murders. Any actions that he takes after the actual murders are not relevant for CCP. And it also is speculative in the sense that he's not responding to someone hysterically screaming about Meadow Pollock. He may not have known who that was. He may not have known that she was one of the victims. It's all speculative, and to allow that to be presented as somehow evidence of cold, calculated, and premeditated, by definition, it goes to the planning of the crime. So the escape itself could possibly, but not conversations that he had that would not have been part of a plan, and reactions he did or didn't have, which could not have possibly been part of a plan, would not be relevant for CCP.
All right. I think your argument goes to the weight, not the admissibility. I think that part of the plan in blending in and sort of concealing himself as just another student is part and parcel with the escape, and I'm going to allow the state to elicit the testimony. Is there anything else? So there were a few things. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? No, ma'am. Okay.
Your Honor, the next witness needs an interpreter. I just want to let the court know.
We have the interpreter.
You have the interpreter.
Yes. Yes. We just wanted to go another chair, and I think he had to set up a microphone.
We have another chair.
Okay, perfect. They lost the schedules, so we're gonna put these on their chairs, which just say this week and next week. and I have an extra copy for you all if you need it as well. I also put on their chairs earlier, they asked for an order for their employers, saying that they were here, so we have those waiting for them, and then we'll have the schedule waiting for them as well. The only change to the schedule is that on Friday, we're gonna start at 9:30. Well, they're gonna be here at 9:30, we're gonna start at 10, instead of them getting here at 8:30 and us starting at 9. So, and then tomorrow, yes, tomorrow's a half day. But that was on the original calendar. But if you all want this, I will remind you tomorrow that we're starting Friday an hour later, but I want to give it to them in writing so they have it. Okay? Please. Yes.
Those are extra.
These are extra. Okay. So we have plenty of extra if anyone needs it. You can let me know when we recess, okay? Yes, we're ready for the jurors? And you said you have 3 more witnesses? 4. 4 more witnesses, okay. You don't think we'll be much past 5:30?
No.
Okay. I'm still making up for keeping them that one night until like 7:30. But it's fine, 4 is fine. Welcome back. Members of the jury, all of the jurors are present. You all may be seated. State, please call your next witness when you're ready.
Thank you. Marjory Pavlichenko.
just stand to be sworn. and then we'll-
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Interpreter, the state told me that we were using an interpreter, but did not tell me what language.
Russian.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you
Yeah, yeah.
solemnly, this is for the interpreter, do you solemnly swear to translate to the best of your ability from English to Russian, Russian to English?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Thank you, sir. And would the witness please raise his right hand?
Пожалуйста, правую руку.
Do you solemnly
Вы
swear or
торжественно
affirm
клянетесь,
the
утверждаете,
testimony
что
you're
ваше
about to
показание
give
будет правдой,
is the truth, the whole truth,
только
and nothing
правда,
but the
ничего кроме
truth?
Да.
правды? Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. You can both be seated.
Садитесь, пожалуйста.
Yes, and Mr. Interpreter, would you please state your full name for the record?
Yes, Michael Luria, L-U-R-Y-E.
And if the witness would please state his full name and then spell it for the record.
Дайте, пожалуйста, полностью ваше имя, фамилию и по буквам для протокола.
Marian Kabachenko. Kabachenko.
Okay, so.
No, I'm sorry, I think the translation.
K as in king, A as in apple, B as in boy, A as in apple, C as in Charlie, H as in Henry, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, K as in king, O as in Oliver.
Okay, just 1 second. If you would please explain, sir, that if I understand that you obviously speak some English.
Я понимаю, что вы говорите по-английски.
However, for the record,
Ради протокола
we have to have you speak only in English
вы говорите только по-английски
or only
или
in
только
Russian with the
по-русски,
use of the interpreter.
через переводчика.
So even if you understand,
Yes. Если даже вы
please
понимаете,
don't answer in English.
не
Please
отвечайте на
answer
английский,
only in Russian,
только по-русски,
so that the record is clear.
чтобы
Okay?
был протокол четкий. Okay? Yes.
Okay. Mr. Kabachenko, are you going to school or are you working?
Вы работаете или ходите, учитесь?
Школа.
To-
Колледж.
To a college.
Okay, where do you go to college?
Какой колледж?
Бровард.
Брoward.
Broward College?
Броудский.
Okay, what year are you in?
В какой курс?
Второй год.
Second.
Where did you go to high school?
А где вы закончили среднюю школу, high school?
В Паркленде.
In Parkland.
Pardon?
Parkland.
Parkland. What's the name of the school?
Как называется школа?
Marjory Stoneman Douglas.
М?
Marjory Stoneman Douglas.
Marjory Stoneman Douglas.
Marjory Stoneman Douglas, is that what you were saying?
Это так вы говорите, да? Marjory Stoneman Douglas. Yes.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018.
Я хочу привлечь ваше внимание к событиям, которые произошли в среду, 14 февраля 2018 года. Okay.
What?
Okay.
What date?
No, okay, he said.
He said okay.
Okay. All right. Where were you doing fourth period?
Что вы делали на четвертом периоде, перемене?
Был в классе географии.
I was in the geography class.
Whose class?
Geography class.
Geography class? What was the name of the teacher?
Как фамилия была учителя?
Кажется, Скотт, имя я знаю.
I believe I know the first name, Scott.
Scott, he doesn't remember the last name?
Вы не помните фамилию?
Рейбин, кажется.
Rabin, I believe.
Я забыл.
I forgot.
Pardon?
I forgot the last name.
I forgot the
The last name. Okay. Would you know the last name if I said it?
Если я произнесу его фамилию, вы узнаете ее?
Да.
Yes.
Beagle?
Beagle?
Да.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So would you tell us what happened during fourth period, please, Mr.
Скажите, пожалуйста,
Kabachenko?
что произошло на четвертой перемене?
Я был, уже подходил конец класса географии.
It was already almost the end of the geography class.
Зазвонила пожарная сирена.
The fire alarm went off.
И мы начали собирать вещи, чтобы покинуть класс.
We started gathering our things to leave the classroom.
Когда я вышел из класса, в коридоре было большое скопление людей.
When I left the classroom, there was a lot of people congregating in the hallway.
Да, и впереди люди были, начало что-то происходить впереди.
And I noticed that something started going on in the front.
Люди, которые были впереди, начали бежать назад, просачиваться через толпу.
People who were in the front started running backward and started trying to go through the crowd, to push through the crowd, their way through the crowd.
Я начал медленно отступать назад.
I started slowly walking backward.
И потом прозвучали выстрелы.
And then gunshots sounded.
И я побежал в сторону лестницы.
And I began running towards the stairwell.
В противоположную сторону от выстрелов.
In the opposite direction from where the shots were coming from.
И когда я бежал, мне что-то ударило в ногу, и резкая боль.
When I was running, while I was running, I felt something hitting my leg, and I felt a sharp pain.
И в этот момент я заметил, что слева был учитель и несколько студентов.
And at that time, I noticed that on my left side there was a teacher and several students
Пытались открыть дверь в класс.
Who were trying to open a door to a classroom.
Я забежал к ним.
I ran with them into there.
И пока учитель пытался открыть класс, я стоял там.
And while the teacher was trying to open the door to the classroom, I was standing there, near them.
Ему не удалось открыть класс, и мы попробовали открыть соседний левый класс.
He was unable to open the door to the classroom, so we tried to open another door to the left.
Левую дверь ему тоже не удалось открыть, поэтому
We failed to open the door to the left classroom as well, so
учитель в этот момент прекратились звуки выстрелов, и учитель выглянул из-за угла и сказал нам бежать.
At that time, the gunshots stopped. The teacher glanced around the corner and told us to run.
Мы побежали.
We started running.
И когда уже почти добежали, опять прозвучали выстрелы.
And when we almost reached the place, the gunshots were heard again.
И я по лестнице спустился на первый этаж.
I walked the stairs down to the first floor.
И в тот момент я уже обнаружил, что людей стало меньше.
And at that time I noticed that there were fewer people around.
Меньше стало, чем было изначально, когда бежали.
Fewer than initially when we were starting running.
Насколько я помню, я первым открыл уличную дверь.
As far as I remember, I was the first to open the door to outside door.
Там лежал мертвый мужчина.
There was a body of a dead male lying there.
И мы оббежали его и побежали в правую сторону, в сторону парковки.
We ran around him and ran to the right towards their parking lot.
Мы отбежали достаточно далеко от здания.
We ran pretty far away from the building.
Но были еще на территории школы.
But we were still inside the premises of the territory of the school.
После этого мы уже начали идти более-менее спокойно.
After that, we slowed down and started walking more calmly.
И опять прозвучали выстрелы.
And then the shots rang again.
И нам показалось, будто опять стреляют в нас из окна.
And it seems to us that somebody is shooting at us from a window
С того здания. И мы
of the building.
опять побежали.
And we started running again.
Мы перелезли через забор.
We climbed over a fence.
И там уже нам помогли люди, которые помогают переходить через дорогу.
And then we were assisted by the people who help students to cross streets.
После того я пошел домой, позвонил родителям.
After that, I went home and called my parents.
Они приехали и забрали меня и привезли домой.
They came over, picked me up, and took me home.
Дома я сказал, что мне что-то попало в ногу.
At home, I told them that something hit my leg.
До этого у меня была правая нога мокрая.
And before that, I felt that my right leg was wet.
И там родители уже видели, что у меня там рана и кровь.
And my parents examined me and saw that I had a wound and blood.
После этого мы поехали обратно на территорию школы.
After that, we went back to the school premises,
И там меня уже забрала скорая помощь.
where I was picked up by an ambulance.
Okay. Mr. Kabachenko, how long had you been at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, I mean, enrolled in Marjory Stoneman Douglas before this shooting happened?
Сколько вы учились в этой школе, прежде чем произошла эта стрельба?
Около 2 недель.
About 2 weeks.
So you were only there 2 weeks?
Только 2 недели?
Да.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me show you State's Exhibit.
Я вам покажу вещдоки прокуратуры.
4R for identification.
4R для опознания.
And ask you if you can identify that.
Вы можете опознать?
Да, это я.
That's me.
And the yellow circle is you?
Вот то, что внутри этого желтого круга, это вы.
Да.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I'd like to offer 4R.
Я хочу представить вещдок 4А.
No objection.
Okay, without objection, State's Exhibit 4R for identification
Принят был для этот
will be
вещдок 4А.
received as State's 78.
Это 78, просто номер другой принят.
Okay, and I'm going to now show you 4O.
4О.
4O. You recognize who that is?
Вы это знаете, кто это?
Да, это я.
Yes, that's me.
Okay. And 4Q, do you know what this is?
For
Да,
Q, что это?
это моя рана.
This is my wound.
This is your wound? Okay. And 4P, does that also show where the wound
4P,
was?
тот показывает, где была рана.
Да.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Спасибо.
All right, Your Honor, I'd like to offer
Я хочу представить
4Q,
эти штуки,
4P,
4P,
and 4O.
4О.
Is there any objection?
Есть возражение?
Please.
Sure. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, can you turn them on? We have to turn the headphones back on, I'll just take a second. Mine's not green. Should have a green one. Oh, here it goes. Okay. All right, the white one. Will be
Несмотря на
received as
возражения
State's
защиты,
79.
мы принимаем эти вещдоки.
4P will be received as State's
Эти
80.
новые номера сообщаются.
4Q will be received as State's 81. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kavichenko, I'm going to now show you, it's been introduced in evidence, States 78.
78, это покажу, это номер.
And who is that in the yellow circle?
Кто этот человек в желтом круге?
Это я.
That's me.
Okay. And States Exhibit number 79.
79, это новый номер.
Is that? Whoops.
Кто это?
Это я.
That's me.
Okay. And States Exhibit 80.
80 номер.
What's that show?
Что это показывает здесь?
Показывает мою рану.
Shows my wound.
Okay. And stage 81, is this a close-up of that wound?
А вот это просто близко, просто ракурсе. Это та же самая рана.
Да.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Спасибо.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Нет других вопросов.
Kabachenko.
Господин Кабаченко.
Okay,
Нет.
thank you, sir. You're
Спасибо.
excused.
Вы можете идти.
And Mr. Interpreter, thank you very much
Я
for your
понял.
services. You're also excused.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Yes. Пожалуйста.
Thank you.
I can go, right?
Yes, that makes sense. The interpreter is excused, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Lehman.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Please be seated. If you would please lean into the microphone and state your full name and spell your last name.
My name's Kyle Allen Lamon.
Spell your last name, please.
Laman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lehman. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. So, do you go to school?
I do.
Where do you go?
I go to the Emergency Educational Institute, EEI. It's a EMT paramedics class.
Okay. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Marjory, Stoneman, Douglas
And when did you graduate?
in 2021.
I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
I do.
Okay, and specifically, I'd like to ask you about fourth period. Do you remember where you were?
I was in Mr. Ross Piercy's class, or my personalization.
Personalization, where
Yeah.
What do you do in personalization? You might as well tell us.
It's like a study hall.
Right.
It's just
Okay.
either homework or,
Okay. So, Mr. Lehman, would you tell us what happened during fourth period, please?
During fourth period was just started off as a normal period till the time hit where the fire alarm went off.
Okay.
As soon as the fire alarm went off, we all did normal fire alarm procedures. We all go into the hallway where all the classes were. We all stayed there very stationary. I already had a really bad feeling about it because it's not normal for us just to be stationary there. So it was bad, I guess, for me. I felt really weird and anxious and scared. That's when someone said the building was on fire, and then I was like, that's impossible. So I had a lot of questions in my mind. Then that's when I heard the doors open on the other side, and it was very loud, and everyone's talking and stuff. Then all of a sudden it just goes silent, and then that's when the screaming happened, and the shots went off. And that's when a lot of people, like, I guess, froze up, and I did too. The hallways emptied, like, for me personally, it emptied super fast. I blinked and everyone was separated, gone, or on the floor. I remember seeing a lot of bodies on the floor. I saw the gunman come out. I saw everything of when the shots went off. I blinked, and then everything just went bad. I started moving left to right, seeing what to do, and then as soon as I went left, I felt like a very strong, I don't really know how to explain it, but like a paintball shot to my right foot, and I didn't even recognize it at the time. I just felt it, and then it went into the cutout to where the bathrooms are. Then that's when I saw my friend there, and then Joaquin was there too.
Joaquin Oliver was in the alcove?
I believe so, yeah.
And who was your other friend?
Tyler West.
Tyler West. So it was the three of you in the alcove?
Yes.
Okay. Then what happened?
I realized that I was like, I feel something wet in my foot. I don't know what it is. I look down and I see my ankles blown off to bits, obliterated. I stood there. It felt like an hour just staring at it. I was like, oh my God, what? Are you serious? This is happening? I was like, I'm feeling the water. It's like blood, and I'm hearing shots going off. People are screaming. Me and Tyler are terrified. I look at him, and he looks at me. I'm like, we're going to die. What do we do? And I peek around the corner, and I still see the shooters shooting into the classroom. I'm like, I see Joaquin trying to get into the bathroom door, but I know the bathroom doors were locked. But so I told him to stop. We need to figure out a different way to get out. So, but I don't think he really heard me or cared. But at that point, I kind of stopped and trying to look for an alternative method to see if I could leave. So that's when I looked, see if the gunman was shooting. He still was. So I took the opportunity while he stopped, at least for temporarily, and I darted to cover to get closer to the exit. And I managed to, as soon as I started running, I was the only person besides the gunman in the hallway at the time, besides the bodies that were on the floor. He started out, since I was running, he targeted me, started shooting at me. I remember hitting the wall, and as soon as I hit the wall, I could see debris from the walls of at least 4 to 5 rounds coming off of the wall. So they aimed at me. I'm assuming. I was like, oh my God. As soon as it did that, the shooting stopped, and then I don't know. I can't really recall how long I was in that little covert for at the second time, but I managed to, as soon as he stopped shooting, again, run and exit. The first door I tried was on the very left, wouldn't open, and that was
when you're saying the door on the left. You're talking about the 2 doors that lead into the west stairwell.
Correct.
Okay, so the one closest.
The one closest to me,
okay,
or the east side. Yeah, it wouldn't open, and so obviously I went to the next one,
right,
and I managed to escape.
Okay.
Ran down the 3 flights of stairs and managed to leave.
Okay, and where did you run to?
I ran towards the football field.
Okay, and did you finally did you hear anything when you were running on the football field?
On the football field, yeah, I heard shots.
Okay, and then did you finally get to safety?
I did, inside of a locker room.
Okay, let me show you. States 24C for identification.
That's me.
Is that you in the yellow circle?
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to offer 24C.
Is there any objection?
No,
States 24C as in Charlie, for identification will be received as states 82.
Now, Mr. Lehman, I want to show you State's Exhibit 82. Is that you right there?
Correct.
In the yellow circle?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to show you now 3 exhibits. Before I do that, could you describe what happened to your leg, your ankle? I mean, what kind of treatment did you have for it?
Treatment?
You can answer.
I had around like 5 to 6 surgeries.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me show you State's Exhibit marked 14Z for identification. You recognize that? And who is that?
That's me.
Is that you at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 4S? Is that?
Yes.
What is that?
That's my foot.
Is that your foot? Okay. And how about State's Exhibit 4B?
Yes.
Okay. And what are they doing there?
So that was a skin graft to repair my whole ankle. They took skin from my right, or no, sorry, they put skin from my left and then muscle and whatever necessary on my right to replace all the missing stuff that I lost. Basically repaired so I could have some function for later in the future so I could at least walk.
Your Honor, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 4S, 4B, and 4Z.
Earlier you said 14.
Did I?
So, just to clear, yes, it's 4, this one says 14Z. Is that,
Whatever.
okay, so there's, just for the record, there's 4 S's in Sam, 4 V like Victor, and then 14 Z like zebra.
What did I say?
Well, you said 14, then you said 4, so I just wanted to make sure this wasn't marked improperly.
No, whatever's there is
Okay.
correct.
Is there any objection?
yes, ma'am, briefly.
Okay. Take a swim in the river. Defense objection states 14Z like zebra for identification will be received as states 83. States 4S like Sam for identification will be received as states 84. And states 4V like Victor will be received as states 85. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lehman and I want to show you State's Exhibit 83, and I think you said that's you in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 84. Was that your ankle before any treatment?
Yes.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 85. Is that when they're doing the skin grafting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Do you have any questions? Thank you, sir. You're excused.
Tyler West.
Just remain standing for this one.
So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down and be seated, please. If you would please lean forward and speak into the microphone and state your full name and spell your last name.
All right. Tyler, WSD. What?
What was the last name?
West, WSD.
Oh, okay, Wes, thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. West. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. So are you working?
I am, yes. I'm working at Publix.
Okay. I'd like, where'd you go to high school?
Stoneman Douglas.
Okay, and what year did you graduate?
2021.
I'd like to call your attention to February the 14th, Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember where you were during the fourth period of that day?
Yes, I was on the third floor of the 1200 building.
Okay, and do you remember what class you were having?
Study hall.
And do you remember who the teacher was?
Mr. Rospierski.
Okay, is that room 1249?
Yes.
Okay, so please tell us what happened during that class.
So basically I was playing chess with my friend Peter and Tanner, and the fire alarm
What-
goes
Your
off.
friend Peter, what's Peter's last name?
Wang.
Okay.
Yeah, and the fire alarm goes off, and pretty much I just exit and walk down the hallway with everybody else. And out of nowhere, everybody just stops and they turn around and they start going back up, and I follow them because I didn't know what to do. And I was just standing there in the middle of the hallway, waiting for my teacher to unlock the door. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but then I heard gunshots, and I kind of panicked. Didn't really know what to do, so I turned around and kind of like ran into the bathroom cubby area. And once I got there, I looked over, saw my friend Kyle Lamont right in front of me. His foot was pretty much shot off, like there's a hole in his foot. And there was another kid. I didn't know who he was at the time, but his name is Joaquin Oliver. He was in the corner laying down. And I looked at him, asked him if he can move. And he said no, he got shot in the leg or knee, one of those. And I just turned around and ran when I saw the opportunity.
Okay. And did you see where Kyle went? Kyle Lehman?
No, I did not. As soon as I started running, I was focused on getting out.
Okay. And where did you run to?
So I ran down the stairs directly across from the little cubby, and I just ran all the way down the stairs and ran off into some neighborhoods nearby.
Okay.
But as I was running down, I did see Coach Weiss, like, against the doorway.
Okay. At the west, outside the west doors?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. West, let me show you State's Exhibit 4X and ask you if you can identify that person in the red circle.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you? And that's you on February the 14th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. West. Your Honor, I'd like to offer State's Exhibit 4X.
Is there any objection? Okay, without objection, states 4X, like X-ray, will be received as states 86.
Okay, Mr. West, here's State's 86, and that's you in the red circle?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
I cannot.
It's not showing.
Okay. How about
Yeah,
now?
I see it.
Okay. Do you see it now? Is that
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, thanks. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. West.
Any questions? No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
excused.
West.
All right, thank you.
Nicolette Muccietta.
Remain standing,
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can put your hand down and be seated. Please lean in to the microphone and state your full name and then spell your last name for the record.
My name is Nicolette Machada, and the last name's Miciotta.
Good afternoon, Ms. Machado. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. And do you go to school?
Yes, I do. I actually just graduated Florida Gulf Coast University with a major in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, going back in the fall for grad school.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
Marjory, Stoneman, Douglas.
And when did you graduate?
2018.
All right. I'd like to call your attention to Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
And do you remember where you were during fourth period?
Yes, I was in Mrs. A's room, right across from the tennis courts. I don't remember the room number.
Okay. Do you remember the building number?
No, I don't. It was facing right across from the tennis court, so when I looked out, I could see it.
Let me show you the little map. Maybe it'll look okay. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit Mark 2, and see if this helps you at all. If it doesn't, that's okay.
I was building 9.
Building 9?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right, so you're in Building 9. So what happens?
Class started. We were doing a discussion. We had been in groups for the discussion. It was an assignment we were doing, and I hadn't felt well that day, so I had been texting my mom, telling her I wasn't sure if I was going to leave or stay or what I was going to do. I ended up deciding to stay because it was too close to the bell ringing, and there's a certain time in between the bell ringing and you being able to leave, and I was cutting it pretty close, so I decided to stay.
Okay.
Moments later, after I texted my mom and said, you know, I'm going to stay, it's too short, we heard the fire alarm go off.
Okay.
When we heard the fire alarm go off, we exited the room. I grabbed my bag, I grabbed everything, and we made our way outside.
Okay, and where did you go?
We went towards the tennis courts. We walked all the way past the fields, all the way to the other side, right in between Westglades and the Walmart that was right there.
Okay, I'm going to put up State's Exhibit number 1, you know, and take a look at this and see if this. Can you see that yet?
Yes.
Does that help you at all?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how to work pick a color and just show from where you were in the 900 building where you went.
I was right here. I don't know if it made a mark.
Now, why don't you pick like the yellow or something.
I was right here.
Yeah, okay, good.
We came along the side. When we came out, there were so many students standing there, you could barely tell, you know, who was who. We just started walking.
Okay.
When we started walking, we walked along here. As we got we kept walking over here. As we got around over here, we started seeing police. When we saw the police, we started realizing a little bit what was going on, because normal fire drill, this would have you never saw police around you as much as we started seeing them. We went along all the way here, just about here is when I had turned around and I saw the shooter was standing behind me.
Okay, well, you didn't know who the shooter was at the time, did you?
I had known him since middle school.
Okay.
I just had not known that he had left the school.
Right. So you see him, what happens?
I see him, and I turned around, and, you know, I hadn't seen him in years. I spent the first 2 years at another school, so my last 2 years were at Stoneman Douglas. I, looking back, obviously had no idea. I turned around, and I realized he was standing with another friend of mine. When I realized that, we kind of collided in the line, so we became one line. When we became one line, I said hi, he said hi back, and I said, you know, you have any college plans? And he said, somewhere in Florida. At that time, we got filed into one line. He was right behind me. And at that time, I was still trying to find friends of mine. I was on the phone with my mom, hysterically.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, I was going to ask you, remember what he was wearing?
He's wearing a maroon JROTC shirt, and I don't remember the pants. I just saw the top. I never...
Was it a maroon ROTC shirt from Marjory, Stoneman,
Yes.
Douglas?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Would you please point him out?
Right there?
The person in the green sweater?
Yes.
Madam Reporter, with the court's permission, would you let the record reflect that Ms. Muccietta identified the defendant, Nikolas Cruz? Okay, and then where did you go? And I'm sorry I pronounced your name wrong.
No, it's
Machado,
Machado. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
At that point, we got, we were scaling the fence between, the Westglades, basically. And when we came out on this end, I turned around and he wasn't there anymore.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions now.
Thank you.
Does that conclude your witness presentation
Yes.
for today? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you should have found earlier today, after a break, I left an order on your chairs. I know some of you had asked for proof for your employers, so that would be the proof that you would need. And then some of you had asked for another copy of the calendar, which I put on your chair as well, which the only small change is that on Friday, you don't need to be here until 9:30. Normally you're here at 8:30, but Friday, I don't need you here till 9:30. Other than that, please remember that you must not discuss the case with anyone or permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case while we're on recess. This includes an overnight recess. Again, if anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about the case, tell the person to stop and report the matter immediately. I told you I would remind you about this every day, and I'm going to until you'll know exactly what I'm going to say before I even say it. I hope you all have a nice evening and a safe drive home, and I will see you tomorrow, the same time tomorrow. We need you here at 8:30, and it's a half day tomorrow. We'll finish by noon or 12:30, and then Friday we'll start an hour later, and you won't have to be here until 9:30. Okay, thank you all very much. Okay, the jury has been excused. We are in recess for the evening. I would ask everyone to please gather your belongings and exit the courtroom, except for today we're going to limit it to the order, the administrative order that says 5 media representatives. I know yesterday I allowed 6. Today is going to only be 5. As soon as people start clearing out, if those 5 people would sign in with the sheriff's office, and you can remain in the first. Well, let me figure out what we're going to do first, whether it be the video or the photos.